Podcast, joined, as always, by Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Satkoviak. Another week 8, Clinton, in the books. Well, the first week, the only week 8 in the books. Another week of college football in the books. We've had multiple week 8s. Might as well. It's a state of mind or something. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Yesterday for guys' day with the boys went pretty decent without mom, and she got back today. The boys were pretty excited to see her. Another beautiful day here in Columbus. So weather's great. We had a great day of college football last week. And it's amazing. We looked back to January, February, whenever schedules dropped, and we got dates. We're like October 12th. That's the date. I tell you what, we've got a run of weekends of games that are absolutely phenomenal that rival that October 12th, right? Like maybe for us in the Big Ten, the Ohio State-Oregon game propel that to first, but we got Oregon playing what's Illinois ranked right now? They top 20?
Yeah, I didn't look at the AP poll too closely to see, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
So here's a fun fact before we get to that. Oregon, the last time they were ranked number 1, they only survived at number 1 for 1 week and then lost the following week to a ranked opponent, which I believe was Stanford. They now play a ranked Illinois opponent at home this weekend. So we could have some fireworks. I highly doubt it, but we could have some fireworks. Mr. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Good, man. We finished painting the kitchen, so we finally have our kitchen table back. Illinois is number 20, by the way. So yes,
there we
top
go.
20. So I finally got all the paint and crap out of the kitchen, which is nice. That's all.
Did Sam paint any more penises on your wall?
No, we just had to do the backsplash area, which I've been putting off because I didn't want to move the fridge out of the way, and that was about as annoying as I thought it would be. So finally got that out of the way, and it actually only took like an hour to paint it. It wasn't that bad, but
nice.
It was good. Good times. I slept like 10 and a half hours last night because we slept.
Don't even go there.
What, like 6 hours the night before or something like that?
My brother-in-law texted me, goes, "Did you see the end of the Georgia game?" I was like, "No, dog. I went to bed because I didn't know if there would be children waking up without my wife here." I was trying to sleep. And I'm glad I did. I mean, I fell asleep in the chair, and then I finally went to bed at 11, but my son was up at 6:30 this morning. So I did not sleep 10 and a half hours, and I'm very tired.
It was nice only being in the Eastern time zone, though.
Yes.
We had a time zone adventure. So we're live on YouTube again. You guys, if you're listening now, you know where to find us there. If you're listening in the podcast feed, make sure you're also subscribed to the YouTube channel at ITPCFB. If I can figure out how to edit video, we're going to throw up some stuff from Purdue this weekend. It took a little bit less than I wanted to, but just some stuff from that. If you're listening on YouTube right now, make sure you're also subscribed to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. We're at Inside the Pylon, a Midwest College Football podcast. And while you are there subscribing, make sure you drop a star rating and a review. We would greatly appreciate it. And the best place to find us is on that Twitter account out at ITPCFB. That's where you can interact with us, ask questions, shoot the shit. We'll shoot all our links out so you can find everything there. So our time zone adventure. We'll talk about our overall Purdue experience here in a minute because Clinton had a game show he wanted to start with, so I don't want to jump the gun on anything here. But we stayed in a place called Remington, Indiana. For those of you familiar with the area, it's about 30 minutes north, slightly northwest of West Lafayette, and Indiana is one of those weird states where I don't think some of the counties observe daylight savings time is why it's like this. But there's like 14 counties in the state that are on Central Time, and the rest are on Eastern Time at this time of year. So West Lafayette is on Eastern Time. Whatever county they're in is on Eastern Time. But Remington, again, 30 minutes north, is on Central Time. So I was all confused for a second, and then we had to set our alarms an hour early to make sure that we were waking up at the right time. So, I mean, it's quite literally the epitome of a first world problem, but that was kind of annoying. And
it was a very interesting scenario to show up to the hotel. I was first one there, and all of a sudden it's like, what? Why am I an hour behind? I guess I first noticed it when I was GPSing it, and it's telling me I'm arriving at 11:35, and I'm like, excuse me? It says it takes me 3 hours and 45 minutes to get there. That does not add up. I know we don't do math on this show, but like time travel, baby, time travel. Now it was we stayed in a Super 8 motel, guys. At this point, I do not think we brought home bed bugs, but it was kind of old person smelling in there, as Ryan noted.
It did smell like old people. And we had a beautiful view of a corn maze. It wasn't a corn maze; it was just a cornfield. It wasn't even a maze.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Honestly,
even real
perfect
corn.
scene if corn would have been up for a killer movie. Just like perfect. Just walk out with a machete and you're just like, oh shit. And then it's over. But anyways, back to the podcast.
I mean, we were literally in the middle of nowhere. Like
in a place called Remington. So excuse me, not a machete, but a shotgun. Someone's walking out of the corn with a shotgun.
Indiana shotgun massacre. I don't know if there's actually anything to this town. Like the Super 8 was right off the highway, and there was a Super 8, a Holiday Inn, a Mexican restaurant, like 3 gas stations, and a McDonald's, and a Taco Bell. None of which
was closed before midnight.
None of which was open when we got back from the game, so that was a bummer.
How are you supposed to get a fourth meal if you're closed before midnight?
I agree, man. It's messed up.
Garbage.
It's messed up. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Clinton had a game show that he wanted to play. So let's just do it. We're going to roll right into it.
Welcome to Swipe or Hype. So Ryan, as I was watching the Bengals beat those stinky Cleveland Browns today, I was thinking, hey, let's do something fun tonight, something a little different. So I invented this little thing called Swipe or Hype. So Ryan, as like a dating app would work, if you swipe, Clinton, you're going to pass in this. Yes, sir.
Are you about to mansplain the dating apps to me?
I had to, homie, because I didn't know what to do on them.
I am a seasoned veteran.
Well, maybe other people out there are like me.
Not in the last 6 years, but the 4 years preceding that. A seasoned
I have zero experience with any of those. Anyways, so if you swipe it...
You mansplain Tinder and Hinge and all those to our viewers here.
So if you swipe, you're passing on the idea. If you're hype, you're feeling it. All right? Pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. So let's kick you off with number 1, Riley. Jesus.
Hello.
Ryan.
Hello.
It's as bad as Cleveland. Lord. Anyways, first idea. Lincoln Riley on the hot seat, Ryan. Are we swiping or are we hyping?
We are 100% hyping that, my friend, because, oh my God. I guess this is do I want to save the Lincoln Riley rant for when we talk about this game, or do we just do it now?
We can do it now.
Can we stop pretending like USC is a good football team? Like, we talked about this on Thursday with most notably Joel Klatt putting 3-3 USC as his 5th best Big Ten team. Homie, like, who was it? Parcells who said it? You are what your record says you are. You're a below 500 team. You are 1-4 in the Big Ten. That is ass. That is toilet bowl territory. You stink if you are 1-4 in the Big Ten. Like, not even playing, again, Ohio State and Oregon here. I get you had Penn State on there. The rest of these teams are nothing to write home about. No disrespect to Minnesota, who I think you're perfectly fine. But Michigan, bad. Maryland, bad. And you are worse than them. Like, I get it. Again, a game that USC should have won. They were in control early, and they failed to close the game. We talked about it last week. Happens once, stuff happens. So be it. Happens twice, that kind of stinks. You're having some pretty bad luck, but whatever. But 4 times now? 4 times, Clinton. In 7 games, you have blown a 4th quarter lead. Not only do you stink, but your coaching staff stinks too. That is pathetic. I shouldn't get hyperbolic and say I've never seen a more poorly coached team, because I watched some pretty lean Notre Dame years in the early 2000s, and those teams suck too. But like, it's bad when you're getting people tweeting out Well, after 34 games at USC, this was Clay Helton's record. Once those tweets start coming out, that's the beginning of the end because that's what the same shit that they did with Jimbo Fisher comparing him to Kevin Sumlin. That's it, man. Like you can't. I don't see how USC comes back from this. I mean, I
Are we
do.
gonna see Lincoln Riley go to the Steve Sarkisian trend and start drinking and show up? Isn't that Steve Sarkisian, right?
Well, I think that might have been a predating thing, but that's probably not a
Yeah,
joking matter.
probably not. Rumor has it, we discussed this a little bit pre-show. It may not be an exact number, but rumor has it $88 million buyout or somewhere in the neighborhood of to get Lincoln Riley off of USC. So USC's AD better be calling some Saudi Arabian prince to come filter that $88 million to get his ass out of there. Otherwise, you're stuck like glue with him. He's not going anywhere. But
I mean,
Ryan, you encapsulated everything I wanted to say about him. It's pathetic.
it's just like how much, and it's like how much worse is it going to get too? Because
6-6
now
worse.
I don't care that you've led every game in the fourth quarter this year. I don't care that you're 7 plays away from being undefeated. It's a loser mentality, and it's excuses that losers make. But like you're 3-4 now. You have literally nothing left to play for. You're getting smacked by injuries. You've had one guy opt out already. Like, where's this team gonna be at the last couple games when you're playing UCLA and Notre Dame? Like, are you even playing for pride? You got what, 25 transfers on that team? How many of those kids even care about that university? You think there's pride there? Okay.
Yeah, fans that don't even care about your university.
Okay. Yeah. I'll believe it when I see it.
If you thought fans were delayed in showing up to the Coliseum for the Wisconsin and Penn State game, they're not going to show up at all for your next game.
It's all LA sports. They love you when you're good. They don't care about you when you're bad. And USC's bad. Like, they got a Friday night game against Rutgers this week.
11 p.m.
Well, it's 8 p.m. their time.
Yeah, but it sucks for us.
Well, yeah. You homie, I am not staying up to watch that game.
Hell no. I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock.
If
this was like a ranked Rutgers and a ranked USC, I still wouldn't do it. First of all,
but we talked about Thursday what our hypothetical Big Ten toilet bowl matchup would be. That is this Friday's game. Rutgers,
yeah,
USC
I think we swap our teams.
It is the Big Ten toilet bowl right now.
Oh my God.
It's
this
pathetic.
Is literally the two teams that are trending down the worst, right? And I know Purdue, it's only won one game, but Purdue's been at the bottom, right? You can't go much below with them.
Oh, yeah. No, Purdue's been in
these two are in the toilet bowl because of the expectations that were put upon them, and more for Rutgers. But for all those USC fans who were coming in here saying 11-1, baby, the Big Ten ain't ready for us. This ain't Pac-12 football, folks. You can't handle the bottom of the Big Ten. How in the hell could you imagine if they played Ohio State or USC or Oregon? What would happen to them? Get railroaded.
Just crushed.
Oh my God.
The worst part about all this too is we had to sit here and pretend for like 3 weeks at the beginning of the year after they beat LSU that they were actually good.
And now LSU's kicking themselves in the ass.
I feel like LSU should have to wear that loss around their neck the rest of the season, the way people keep bringing up Northern Illinois about Notre Dame.
I can concur with that. That's a bad loss. If you're LSU, you're at least hoping. You never like to lose, but you're hoping that at the end of the year, that's at least a 9-3, 10-2 USC team or better that you lost to. They're looking down the barrel of probably 6-6, if not worse. That's bad.
They're not good.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next swiper hype, Ryan. The Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes comp. Are you swiping or are you hyping?
I'm going to tentatively swipe on this, and I don't think it's necessary. Like, I think, like, he did not have a good game against Indiana, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before. Indiana's defense is good, man. It's not like people are talking about, oh, the Nebraska defense versus the Indiana offense. Indiana's got a good defense, and I thought that was getting a little bit overlooked heading into this game. Turned him over 4 times, 3 picks, 1 fumble, and one of the podcasts I was listening to, like, they were talking about like his profile as a recruit, and like where the Mahomes comparison falls short is where Mahomes can kind of go off platform and scramble around in the backfield because he's athletic enough. That's just not something that Raiola is. And like if you watch this game, whenever Indiana got pressure on him and kind of cornered him in the pocket, he doesn't have the escapability. So, maybe the arm is good. Well, the arm is definitely good, and he'll continue to get better. And I'm not dumping any Raiola stock based on this game or this season because there's gonna be ups and downs with it, but it seems like if we're gonna compare him to a guy whose primary asset
God right now in the
is
NFL.
his escapability, and you don't have that seems like a very fatal flaw in the comparison.
Yeah. I think the other thing you got to do this offseason, if you're Matt Rule, first of all, you got to stay above water for the rest of this season. But you need to get him some damn wide receivers and an offensive line and maybe some running backs to contribute to this offense because none of it's good enough. Yeah, it looked good enough when you were playing scrubs, but you didn't play a scrub Saturday, and you're not playing a scrub this Saturday. You think Indiana beat your ass. If Ryan Day really wants to beat your ass, you're in big trouble.
Well, yeah, because that's all Ryan Day can do is he can beat the garbage teams. That's his home run swing.
Hey. He has beaten Penn State, and he has beaten Michigan. Okay?
Buddy.
Penn State's not garbage. They're the most consistent team in America. 10-2, baby.
Yeah, consistently losing to good teams.
And they're going to be 10-2 after the next 2 weeks. A little prelude coming up. All right, next to the swiper hype. Indiana without Curtis Rourke.
I'm gonna tentatively hype because I kind of like how Taven Jackson looked in relief. So that was the big news that came out today is Curtis Rourke is out at least for the Washington game with the thumb injury sustained this weekend. It was like 4 minutes left in the second quarter. He finished the half. It definitely didn't look as crisp throwing the ball, but Indiana still scored on that drive because Nebraska couldn't have stopped a freaking nosebleed on Saturday. But did not play at all the second half. Taven Jackson came in and still piloted the offense to 28 points in the second half. And granted, you could probably make an argument that Nebraska had completely capitulated by that point. So how much of that, how much stock are we actually putting in that? I don't know, but you at least get a full week of prep for him with practice. He's a guy who's been at Indiana. I get it's not the same system since last year, but
he's mobile.
I think he's a good enough stopgap quarterback if it's just a 1 week thing where I become, and you look at their next two games, like it's an advantageous draw for them this weekend because Washington's good. Washington's certainly good enough to beat them, but we've talked ad nauseum that it's a team that's not consistently able to be disciplined and play good quality football, but it's also another one of those weird body clock games where it's going to be a 9 a.m. start for them because it's big. I don't know if it's big noon, but it starts at noon next week. So advantageous draw at least, and if you get Rourke back the following week against Michigan State, that's great. But again, I think maybe they could beat Michigan State without him, but Michigan State's got some spunk now too. Again, it all depends on what
we'll have to talk about that one. Yeah.
Yes, it depends what Aidan Chiles shows up, and unfortunately for the Spartans, they got good Aidan Chiles last weekend. But if it's a 1 week thing, yes. If it's like if this goes into the Michigan game, I don't know.
Yeah. No matter what Michigan is, like having to play
Still a
that
good
game
defense,
even
man.
at home, they
Still a
are a
good
good defense. So it'd be a challenge. All right, on to the next one. Swipe or hype the Ohio State pass rush.
Oh, this is 100% a swipe. But it's been the most overrated unit in the country for 2 seasons now.
But hey, they're playing average this week.
It's
so they're going to
names.
look damn good, right?
It's names. All they are is names. You have big
It's
names.
not names. It's what was beside them that made them their name. What used to be beside them.
It's the rule is if you're in your 3rd or 4th year in college and we're still talking about your high school star rating, you're not a good college player. And they're good. They are very both of them are excellent against the run. The issue is you can't have two starting defensive ends who are run stoppers only and can't get after the quarterback.
Yep.
But
if you do, you know what they do in the NFL? They pull you off the field and put pass rushers in.
You play first down, second down.
Can't do that in college because they're not all NFL players. However, Caden Curry, put this kid on the damn field this week and let him change a game. That's my only piece.
Yeah, they gotta it's getting to a point for Ohio State that you have to stop with the senior loyalty thing, and you got to see if there's someone else who can give you a pass rush, because
or it's going to cost you a national championship chance.
Because
It's going to cost you a Big Ten chance.
You could potentially beat Penn State playing defense the way that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
done it in the past. You did it last year.
Did it last year. And I mean, there's one game a year that JTT goes supernova, and it seems to be Penn State every year. But I mean, if you have to play Oregon again and you can't get after Gabriel, do you really think that game's
lose
going to go
again
any differently than the first one? Do you think that if you can't get after Carson Beck, like you saw it is still Sunday. You saw last night, if you get after him, he's susceptible to make turnovers. Mm-hmm. You get after Ewers, he's susceptible to make turnovers. Yep. If you're going to let those guys sit in the pocket all day, they're going to carve you up.
Yep. And again, now that we're a few weeks away from Denzel Burnt Toast, I listened to more and more on our way back from Purdue, and they had some good insight, right? Like, he got caught looking in the backfield, but part of that problem was Oregon was a dink and dunk offense. They hadn't shown the willingness to throw downfield yet. After you get burnt the first time, you might start to readjust to that, which he didn't. But your pass rush didn't do you any favors, right? What's a corner's best friend? The ability for your defensive line to wreak havoc. Mm-hmm. You get gifts, you get interceptions, you get better pass deflections, sometimes your ass gets saved in coverage. Mm-hmm. And then you can say vice versa. What's a D-line's best friend? Oh, the corner is shutting receivers down, so you have 7 seconds to go sack a quarterback. You give Ohio State's pass rush 12 seconds, and they wouldn't be able to get to Dylan Gabriel last week. So I like your pass there. I think at this point, to show me otherwise, and there's really no matchup similar to that unless you go back to the Big Ten championship, because Michigan's ass. Michigan's offensive line is ass.
Yep.
Just 2 weeks ago, weren't they named to the Joe Moore Award watch list again? Get the hell out of here with that. Yeah, There's no chance. Illinois beat your ass.
That's a reputation thing.
Penn State's offensive line's not really that much to write home about. So, very interesting. All right, 2 left, Ryan. These ones should be a little bit quicker. Ashton Jeanty, Heisman winner.
Oh, we're hyping the shit out of this. Like, come on.
The reason I put that on there was people were just sending out and asking why he is not currently first. Like, how is he not first? How is he second to Cam Ward?
I think it's going to take it actually happening for people to believe that it can happen, because I think we're just so caught. Like, we talked about this at some point. I don't remember who we were talking about it with. I'm fascinated to see how the Heisman field expands with the expanded playoff, because for the longest time it's been quarterback on the best offensive playoff team, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's, aside from Devontae Smith having a ridiculous year, it's usually a quarterback.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and that was 10 years ago now? 9 years ago now, something like that. And we're talking about a guy who is playing for a team that, we'll find out more this weekend when they play UNLV, but most are expecting to be the G5 representative in the playoff. If they get there, it's going to be because of him. It's not Maddox Madsen who's leading them to the playoffs. It's not their defense that's leading them to the playoff. It is the guy who is putting up numbers that we have not seen in the college game since Barry Sanders. Mm-hmm. So, if we're checking the box, guy who, most valuable player on playoff team, and a guy who's having an insane statistical season, a complete statistical outlier season, that kind of fits the bill of Devontae Smith. And I get Devontae Smith was Alabama, not Boise State, but it takes a season like that to catch voters' minds. I think the one thing that would hurt Ashton Jeanty is you have so many Heisman voters who are like crusty old white dudes who don't actually watch college football. They're just like columnists at newspapers who have had a vote for 25 years and for some reason still have one. So I wonder if he might get hurt because those people don't actually know the sport at all.
Absolutely. All right, last one. They are now ranked the number 1 team in the country, the AP Bowl, the Oregon Ducks. So, Ryan, I want to know, are you swiping or hyping Oregon as the best team in college football?
I'll hype it. I'll hype it just because who else are you going to put there?
I would argue Georgia. I'm not saying should they be number 1. I'm just saying, are they the best team in college football? Ignore the ranking. I don't give a shit that they're 1. I just brought that up because it's newly updated.
If Georgia plays like they did last night, then I would say Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that's the first time we've seen that Georgia team this year.
Mm-hmm. They were a pumpkin against Bama. Now, again,
They were down 28-0 to a Bama team that has looked inept offensively since that game.
yeah. Yeah. And you could argue in the second half, Georgia laid the script for what to do to them. Kirby Smart made great adjustments. He's an excellent motivator. And he said, F this. This is not happening to us. And then he went and did it to Texas.
Yeah. And again, that we joked about this last week. Everyone sucks and no one's played anyone, but like, who's Texas played? Who's Texas beat?
Nobody.
They got hyped up by beating Michigan, and that Michigan it's aged like spoiled milk that you left out in your car on a 100-degree day. Like Texas doesn't have an impressive win this year, so I don't know, maybe. I would see an argument that Oregon and Ohio State are the two best teams in the country right now. Like I could make a case for that, and I would be willing to listen to someone else making a case for that. If you want to make a case for Georgia too, that's fine. If they play like they did last night, like I said, they probably beat Oregon and Ohio State both, but that just is not something that we have seen from Georgia all that often this year. I mean, they're a week removed from giving up 31 points to Mississippi State. So let's maybe pump the brakes on daunting, dominating defense.
Kentucky damn near beat them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like the one thing you can say for Ohio State in this point, yes, they did lose to Oregon, but they wiped the floor with everyone else like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon struggled, but I'm going to go back to that. I think that was their offensive line.
Yeah,
we're about to get into this game, but this was the first sack last week that they've given up since Boise State. Been playing lights out. They have, to this point, fixed their O-line, and it's changed the team.
Yes.
It has changed the team.
Much better offensively now.
Yes, I think I could make an argument that Georgia's won, but having watched Oregon play in person and just seeing, I don't want to get too much into this because it's my first point of the Oregon Purdue game. They're tough, man. They're really good. They're fast. They're twitchy. They're good. And Dylan Gabriel, again, now this was Purdue, so they open it up and hit over the top right away, but they're starting to diversify their offense a little bit.
Yes.
They're keeping Gabriel upright. He is healthy. He's starting to show the ability to throw downfield. I'm starting to go back to your idea when we talked with Dale and Cam, is I think they were saving that for Ohio State. They showed all year we're going to dink and dunk and dink and dunk and dink and dunk, and we should be good enough to beat whoever we play. And then we're going to come to Ohio State. We've had people scouting Denzel Burke since last year. He's susceptible to what we're going to do to him. He puts his eyes in the backfield too much, and we're going to roast his ass. And they did it. And then they did it to Purdue. This is now a piece of their offense. So you better have good corner plays, or you better help with a safety, or they're going to eat you alive.
Well, let's just go ahead and talk about this now. So we're going to start with this one just because I want to talk about the trip a little bit. So we went to this game. We were in West Lafayette all day on Friday. Good time.
A lot of fun.
Oregon 35, Purdue 0. The game was not fun. There was not a lot to write home about this game. But I enjoyed walking Purdue's campus. We walked a lot on Friday. We kind of just parked and kind of walked around town. I have a blister on the bottom of my foot. It's real nice. My footwear choice was not the best, but a really, really awesome campus. I got some good Ohio University vibes from it, but probably on a little bit larger scale. Yeah. It's nice. It's nicer than Ohio's. I love the scenery in Athens. Don't get me wrong, but like the way that it kind of goes into the downtown, just the brick, how everything, all the buildings are all kind of architecturally similar. And I really like how the stadium is just built into the campus and how you have dorms and stuff surrounding the stadium. I thought that was a really cool vibe.
Yep. The tailgating scene was pretty cool. We walked around multiple times through those. We didn't have a ton of interaction with random people, but they were pretty nice people. We had Pizza Uncommon. Hey, I got the name right instead of flipping it. It was a solid pizza place. Again, once Ryan is able to figure this out, or if worst comes to worst, we'll just post a short of the pizza review. But it was a pretty solid pie. We did a little hot honey pizza, hot honey pepperoni. And then we had, was it Triple X our friend Dub Jellison's?
Yep.
Guy Fieri has been there. They were featured on Food Network. So I'm glad we stopped. We almost didn't. We were going to go to, was it Tap 21 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
And we went down there, and I'm glad we did. The root beer was phenomenal. I hate root beer. Don't like it. But when you're in Rome, go for it, right? and it was pretty solid. Plus the burger and the
Burger was
fries,
excellent. Yep.
very good. They do a unique trick with their burgers. They coat the meat in flour before they fry it or grill it up so that they can help hold the juices in the burger. Now, I did have a smidgen of hard time getting the true flavor because I burnt the crap out of the roof of my mouth shoveling down that pizza 2 hours prior to eating that, which now seems I'm almost to 100% roof of mouth, but I think that impaired my tasteability just a little bit. But very cool place, man. Small, nostalgic, lots of pictures everywhere. Their whole entire, like half their menu is based off former Purdue player names.
Yep.
It's really cool. If you guys are in West Lafayette, if I had to give any recommendation, go check out Triple X.
Yeah, shout out Dub. Dub told us to check that one out, and it did not disappoint.
Props, brother.
I liked Ross-Ade, cool stadium.
Very cool. Needs an improved sound system.
The sound system was not good. That would be my one complaint, but it got loud a couple times in the first quarter, and that was about it because this game was
over.
Pretty much over by like midway through the first quarter. Oregon, I think they scored on their first 3 drives. Maybe they had a punt in there.
I think it was first 2.
They were up 21-0 with like 12 minutes left in the second quarter, and then Purdue started playing a little bit better defensively. Oregon might have started to tone it down a little bit there, but then Oregon didn't score again until the fourth quarter. It felt like in the first quarter, Oregon could do whatever it wanted, and Purdue just didn't have an answer on both sides. Well, definitely on defense, Purdue did not have an answer. I thought Purdue offensively ran the ball pretty well in this game. They had like 200 yards rushing, like 5.5 yards per carry. But the issue for Purdue is they could not throw the ball. They could not protect Ryan Brown. I think they only attempted 6 passes in the first half. They called more than that, but there was a lot of called passes that ended up in scrambles because he did not have time to throw or no one was getting open downfield for him. Yeah, man, there really wasn't a lot to take away from this game. I don't think Jordan James played in the second half, and they didn't need him because they were up and this one was already kind of over. But you kind of mentioned this when we were walking out. I think the one big takeaway from this game is with that success that Purdue was able to have running the ball, that might be a roadmap to potentially beating Oregon because we saw it a couple of times in the Ohio State game. You know, we were talking about this during the game too. Trey Henderson had a lot of success against them. Judkins not so much, and it's because he has a hand injury. He had hand surgery last week, so not expected to miss any time, but that would potentially explain why he was not as effective, and it kind of makes you wonder why they were not using Henderson more, considering he was running the ball well. But that's 2 weeks in a row now where the Oregon run defense looks a little susceptible, Clinton, so I wonder if that's something that maybe Illinois exploits this weekend or Michigan the following week.
Well, you mentioned we'll get to Illinois, but Illinois came off a really nice running game against the Michigan Wolverines this week in very creative ways in which they ran the ball, and we'll get to that game shortly. But you're right. Very quick opening. I mean, I think the first play or second play, whatever, Dylan Gabriel just strikes down the field. We had another run on the second drive where they hit Evan Stewart deep down the field. But then you look at Purdue. Purdue had their chances. They were never going to win this game, right, guys? They had to have more than 100% of things go correct to do this. There's just too much of a disparity between these teams. There's no Karlaftis. Well, there is a Karlaftis on this team. No George Karlaftis on this team to change the game on defense. There's no Rondale Moore on offense. There's no Drew Brees or Kyle Orton at quarterback. Purdue's got to have those things to make that magic happen, right? They had their chances, though, and Ryan and I were talking about this during the game. Numerous times they crossed the 50-yard line, and they took a poo down their leg.
Yeah.
It was not only just the players, but Ryan Walters, what place he was calling. I'm like, dude,
play calling was not
you're
great.
getting 5 yards of carry. You're in 3rd and 2. Run the ball. Then they get freaking sacked or a blown up play and lose 7 yards. And I'm like, you're killing yourself. And then early, you missed the field goal attempt. They shot themselves in the foot for making this a somewhat competitive game. They were not going to win it. But, for making it more interesting, they shot themselves in the foot. You're exactly right. They laid the groundwork. Not only is it 5.2 yards as a team for Purdue, but Reggie Love individually averaged 8.5 yards per carry. Illinois coming off a really good running game. You know who also is red hot as a running back that's coming up on this schedule? Tawee Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin is red hot running the ball. Locke was a bit iffy this past week passing, but they are red hot running the ball. You know, despite their faults and they're not that good, they just interviewed Colston Loveland after this game yesterday, and he said, playoffs? Yeah, that's not for us. We're done. We're here to ruin people's seasons now. Well, guess what? You know who could? Khalil Maulings could wreck Oregon's season because Michigan still can run the ball. And they'll find a way, and then it's at home, so it's going to be a lot more advantageous for them. They can. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they can. So you have to figure something out, right? I'm a little worried with the Jordan James thing, not playing the entire second half. Someone said something about he was grabbing his low back when he came off the sideline, and maybe that's a precautionary thing. Whittington, though, we both said this. He's not the guy to carry the load if James misses time. Like, they're going to have to incorporate some other guys because he's not the one that's going to get him done. He's not explosive. He's not powerful.
He had a nice touchdown catch in the fourth quarter, but he just is not as shifty as Jordan James is.
If Oregon has to rely on him a ton, that's going to limit that run game considerably for them, which then doesn't quite make them one-dimensional because there's so many dimensions to their offense. But in the grand scheme of things, if you settle it between pass and run, it would make them a little more one-dimensional. But fun atmosphere. Love the visit to Purdue. It was great to have our first annual ITP trip. Hopefully next year, wherever we decide to go, it is a little bit more competitive.
Yes. Good transition to the only ranked matchup. No, we're not doing that. We're going to the big one. I almost just skipped the headliner.
Absolutely. You have to go to the big one.
Skip the
big noon kickoff.
The big noon kickoff, which was a big old turd in the punch bowl because Indiana beat crap out of Nebraska 56-7. This game was pretty much over at halftime.
Shit, it might have been over at the end of the first quarter.
Well, yeah, it was. I think, kind of talking about this game Thursday, the thing that I was worried about from a Nebraska standpoint is they're not particularly great offensively, and that played itself out for everyone to see in this one. 5 turnovers in this game. Dylan Raiola threw 3 interceptions. They did not run the ball well at all. Even with the sack adjusted, 29 carries for 70 yards. Even if you take the 2 carries for minus 11 yards for Raiola out, those are still not very good numbers. They didn't particularly throw the ball all that great either. They threw it 44 times, 234 yards through the air. Again, the 3 interceptions. We touched on it already. The big story coming out of this one is Curtis Rourke did not play the second half with a thumb injury. But Taven Jackson came in, and that probably has to at least give IU fans some comfort heading into this weekend against Washington. He looked good running the offense, 7 of 8 for 91 yards and 2 scores. Indiana, as a team, averages 6.5 yards per carry on 215 yards rushing in this one. I mean, aside from the Rourke news, Clinton, it was probably about as perfect of a game as you could have gotten from the Hoosiers here.
Yeah. The funny part was in the pregame interview, I missed this, I guess, when they were interviewing Signetti, Jenny Taft, he was sitting there and she was asking about like the atmosphere and stuff like that. And excuse my upcoming French. He goes, well, when you fucking win games, people show up to watch on live TV. And I was, oh my God, this dude just doesn't care.
I missed that.
He is here to beat your ass and then come and beat your ass some more. That's exactly what he's here to do. We talked about a key battle in this game. We got specific with both Sammy and on Thursday, the IU rush offense versus the Husker run D. Indiana's run game won this without issue. You already mentioned ran for 215, 6.5 yards per carry as a team. Ellison had 9 carries, 105, averaging 11.7 per carry with 2 TDs. Tyson Lawton, 8 carries, 64 yards, 8 yards per carry and a TD. Nebraska couldn't stop a nosebleed, period, but could do nothing in the run game. You know what you need to do really well if your starting star quarterback gets hurt? Be able to run the ball. Indiana is not one-dimensional. That vaunted Nebraska D-line, did they even get a sack in this game?
20
sacks on the season.
They did Got one.
They got one.
They got one sack.
One sack. So IU's O-line played very well against a very good D-line. You might not, if you parse out the D-line from the rest of the team, whatever. Here's the big thing. You mentioned Rourke. IU's now about to get even more into its meat of the schedule. Got a game against Washington this week, but it's a 9 a.m. start essentially for Washington Body Clock. You're going to go to Michigan State, who just pulled an upset over Iowa, which we'll get to soon. Good Aidan Chiles showed up. But then you're getting Michigan and Ohio State looming before you play the old Oak and Bucket game, which you're going to dismantle Purdue. I think Michigan and Ohio State better be a little bit on notice, barring Rourke's health, right? Like Indiana's probably not beating Ohio State, but damn, you better respect them because they are good. Get the disrespect of Indiana's name out your mouth. Put them in your playoff discussions this week. Did Joel Klatt have Indiana in his top 5 Big Ten teams? I'm going to hope he did, right? You cannot tell me he put USC over top of Indiana.
I don't even remember. Clinton, I don't listen.
I think he did. I think he had him at 3 or 4. My last piece was, where do the Huskers turn from here? And we'll get into that tomorrow night with Redcast Rob from the Go Big Redcast joining us tomorrow night.
He's going to be in a great mood.
Yeah, he's sandwiched between an ass beating from Indiana and about to get an ass beating from Ohio State. Well, their schedule doesn't get any easier with Ohio State looming this week. The USC game is a winnable game because USC is a joke, but you still have to play Iowa. Also might be a joke, but maybe Iowa's defense is a little healthier by then. But you have a pissed off Ohio State coming at you after a loss, and they got a whole bye week to stew on it.
Yep.
I think where we talked with Rob preseason, where are we talking about a 9-win Nebraska team here? I think we need to back that choo-choo train up and say, can they get to 6 wins? Bowl eligible. That's where we need to go.
Well, they should. You should beat UCLA. The rest.
We thought Rutgers should beat UCLA too.
Well, I did not.
Another defense decimated by injury.
I probably only picked Rutgers in that game because it was at Rutgers. They're not very good.
Yeah,
they're not very good. But no, man, I think Nebraska's in a situation where we kind of hypothesized with Indiana on Monday last week with Sammy, right? Like, okay, so you're at 6-0. Are you happy with 6-0, or do you need more based on how the first half has gone? And I think with Nebraska, based on starting 5-1, they were probably sitting there thinking like, well, yeah, we just wanted to get bowl eligible, but with how good this has gone so far, we're wanting more. And I think that they certainly got a little bit of a wake-up call last weekend. I don't necessarily know that this is going to be a wake-up call this weekend because I think they're all anticipating that they're going to get the shit kicked out of them by Ohio State. But you're in a precarious spot if you get absolutely demolished 2 weeks in a row, because then people in the locker room are starting to be like, all right, well, what are we doing here?
So, what has changed?
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what you're going to think. Like, yeah, we won one possession game, but we're getting our doors blown off, and we still lost our other 1 possession games. Colorado win still looks great right now.
Yep, that's
Colorado's what, 5-2?
Yep, that's aging well.
Looking damn good, right? And was a play away from beating Kansas State, I believe. So, good win. You got the potential there, but now though, I just feel like you're getting to the point where you have to have better athletes, right? We just talked about this in the game show portion. You don't have enough around Raiola right now.
No.
We got guys on their 3rd team in college football. I believe Nair at wide receiver, right?
Well, and I think
we have another guy who's on his 2nd team. Like,
I think the receivers are fine. I think the issue is their running game is just awful.
I don't know, man. I feel like their receivers just too inconsistent. I think at their peak they're fine, but they just don't show up all the time.
Well, that's what happens when you're taking a guy who didn't play at Texas and a guy who was okay at Wake Forest post Sam Hartman. So I think the bigger issue is they cannot run the ball with any sort of success, so it's easy to just play back and make Raiola beat you because he's not going to be able to do that when you're dropping 7 into coverage consistently, as we saw in this game. In Champaign, Illinois was wearing special throwback uniforms for the Red Grange. I don't know what the fuck that means. They had the
he was a football player. It was a 100-year anniversary upset of Michigan.
Okay, well,
it wasn't of Michigan. It just happened to occur at the 100-year anniversary, and they were playing them again.
Well, they had helmets that were painted like a leather helmet, and in homage to football that was played in the 17th century, they played completely neglecting the forward pass. It was a hideous game to watch. Illinois 21, Michigan 7. Good God, Clinton. Good God.
Michigan scored its fewest points since 2014 in this game, and now they've lost back-to-back games.
Clinton,
what?
Do you know what happened in 2014? You know what game that was?
Refresh me.
Notre Dame beat them.
Oh, this is why
technically it was 31-0, but they picked six Devin Gardner at the horn to make it 37-0, and I think it was Max Redfield got a personal foul penalty for absolutely blowing up Devin Gardner on a block, and it negated the pick six.
Gotcha.
I have the picture of that scoreboard hanging from my desk, which is funny because I work for the University of Michigan.
That's great.
It's all-time troll.
Well, they've also now lost back-to-back games for the first time since 2020. They're out to their worst start since that 2014 season. After they've made the college football playoff for the 3 straight years, COVID season excluded, of course. Michigan. I guess I'll start here.
Where's the hope? Where's the hope?
There is no hope.
There's no hope.
You outgained Illinois 322 to 267.
Dude,
and most of Illinois' offense was running, not passing.
Held Luke Altmaier to 89 yards passing. Less than 100. It was less than 90. I don't remember the exact number. I didn't write it down.
Yeah, it was in the 80s, I'm pretty sure.
267 yards total for Illinois in this game.
Yeah, and your quarterback's killing this team. But that O-line and that Vaughn
quarterbacks.
They're all killing the fourth one. Listen, when they talked about, Tuttle had some consistency and blah, blah, blah at the beginning of the game, that first drive, dude's missing passes by 5 yards. I'm like, he ain't it either.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't it either.
If you can't look good on the scripted drive, that's not good.
Need some bonehead turnovers. But the O-line and the defense, I know the defense held them to 21, right? But when your offense can't score more than 10 points, you're not going to win.
No.
So neither of those are up to snuff. The wheels might be falling off the Michigan car right now, and you might be staring down a 6-6 season, man, because you still got to play Oregon, you got to play Indiana, and you got to play Ohio State, and 2 of those games are on the road. You got Ohio State.
They have Michigan State this weekend.
They do, and I was going to bring that up.
32 on Iowa.
What do we think is going to happen against Michigan State this week? This is a rivalry. Michigan State has taken shit from you on Twitter for the past few years outside of the Kenneth Walker game about how they own you and your little brother.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming into this now. It's at the Big House, so Michigan's going to have that. But Michigan State, if the right Aidan Chiles shows up and Will Johnson doesn't play again, could be some trouble.
I wonder if that's like a, hey guys, my toe hurts. I actually,
I'm wondering if
that's not fair to him.
Yeah, it's not fair, but I don't know, man. He seems like a competitor. I think he'd want to be out there. I think he knows he's probably cornerback number 1 in this class, but that doesn't mean you can't be drafted in the 20s as of like this past year versus top 5.
The old when Kyle Hamilton hurt his knee, he had an inflamed fat pad in his knee and then missed the last 6 games of the year.
Yeah. But we talked about on the Illinois side on the prediction show, they said they had to be more balanced. Well, they weren't quite balanced because they only threw for 80 yards.
No,
they didn't have to
went
throw.
The opposite way. They were unbalanced in the opposite way.
If you subtract Bryant's 1 run for -1 yards, they had 188 yards on the ground. They ran draw plays, delayed runs, and that ate Michigan up. They're 13-7 at the half, and they opened the opening drive with a fake punt that Arkins ran down Michigan's throat all the way to their 16-yard line. Forget about the offense. Talk about the defense. Illinois' defense forces 3 fumbles. They recovered 2 of them. They had 1 INT, 5 sacks, 7 TFLs. Jabe Jacobs is my player of the game. I hope that's how you say his last name. 13 tackles, 6 solo, 2.5 of Illinois' 5 sacks, and a forced fumble. He's the player of the game, in my opinion. I never felt like, even though it kind of ebbed and flowed a bit, I didn't feel like Illinois was in danger of losing this game.
No, I agree.
Because Michigan couldn't get it. I was like, can we just get it over with? Because it's boring as hell.
Yeah.
But I don't think Michigan has a chance to win this as soon as it started.
I mean,
They
it
couldn't
got
do
a
anything.
little dicey, not like dicey-ish, but it was like midway through the fourth quarter. They were driving. It was still 21-7 at that point. So it's like, well, are they going to score twice? But they got it down to the red zone, and then Jack Tuttle threw another interception. I'm like, well, this game's over.
Well, that's the other thing. Look at the turnovers. Like Illinois could have opened this up worse.
Yep.
And the one time they picked them, then they gave it right back.
Yep.
They couldn't get down the field. So props to Michigan's defense.
Yeah, defense played well. Their defense played well.
This could have been worse.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to talk too much about this, Clinton, because we could probably talk about this for another half hour. But 5 games left for Michigan: Michigan State, Oregon, Indiana, Northwestern, Ohio State. If they don't beat Michigan State this weekend, they might not go to a bowl game. And I think if they lose to Michigan State this weekend, we enter like legitimate, are they going to fire Sharon Moore after 1 year territory?
Only a $5 million buyout. Actually, he's coaching without a contract, right? Because he never signed it. Wasn't that the word?
They signed it.
Okay.
They signed it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I tweeted it out. I'm on the Signetti to Michigan train.
You stop.
It's worth a call, right?
Don't speak
that. That might be bad for the rest of the Big Ten, but it's worth a call.
Don't speak that into existence. Yeah, so Michigan's just out of sight, out. Well, they're not out of sight, out of mind, because it's kind of funny to me personally, but they're they're an irrelevant team in terms of the Big Ten this year. They're out of top 25. They're not winning the conference title. They might not make a bowl game. So,
and Loveland talks about playing spoiler. I don't know if they're good enough to play spoiler.
No, that's the other thing too. It's like if that's the motivation, if that's what you need to tell yourself to get up and go to the facility at 5 a.m. every day, that's fine. But like, my dude, you're very fortunate that you are not currently riding a 4-game losing streak, because you had some help from the officials to beat Minnesota, and you had some help from Lincoln Riley to beat USC.
Yep.
So,
Don't feel too great.
Speaking of which,
oh my gosh,
we got the Lincoln Riley rant out of the way already, so we don't need to do it again. But Maryland 29, USC 28. USC keeps finding new ways to lose this game. This special was attempting a field goal on 4th and 1 with 2 minutes left that gets blocked and returned like 25 yards down the field on a lateral. It was really funny to watch. And then,
don't forget the next key part. Your defense
let Maryland
gets a PI on the next Maryland drive that then sets up Billy Edwards' game-winning 3-yard TD run. Ryan, this is four fourth quarter collapses, I believe, right?
They were up by 14 points with 10 minutes to go in this game, and they lost.
Diabolical.
Yeah, no.
Lincoln Riley calling it a tough one to swallow and a heartbreaking way to end it. Because you suck, dude.
They've literally led in the fourth quarter every game this year, and they are a game below 500.
It's just, you've mentioned it before. You cannot put all this on players. At some point, you're just a bad team, but you're having bad coaching.
It's the same stuff every week. If it's the same stuff happening every week, it's a coaching problem. Because either your players aren't good enough for the positions that you're putting them in, and it's your fault for continuing to put them in those positions, or you're not preparing them properly, or you're just not a good game day coach. And we're talking about a guy who, I don't know, maybe this is getting too far into the weeds, but like, you want to talk about, Michigan fans love to bag on Ryan Day for being born on third base. Lincoln Riley inherited a frickin' Lamborghini from Bob Stoops.
And when he went to USC, they also bought him like a $10 million mansion.
But like
living the good life.
So maybe it's not fair to compare him to. Was that a cat?
Yeah, I rolled my chair up and I didn't realize her tail was there, so I rolled it on her tail. She still loves me. She's still rubbing on my leg, but sorry, Pepper, I did not mean to do that, girl.
Oh, I hope that was your cat and not your kid coming down. But so he's very clearly a good developer of quarterbacks, right? Like, that's undisputed. We're not having a conversation about that. But at what point do we have to have a conversation that Lincoln Riley without an elite number 1 overall pick quarterback, maybe not number 1 overall pick, a top 2 round quarterback is a bad coach. Because it's the first time in his coaching career he has not had a guy who is going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. And they're awful.
Ryan, not to
They
cut
had
you
the
off.
number 1 overall pick last year and they went 6-6.
7-5.
Whatever. Who cares?
That's an indictment of, I think, how good Caleb Williams is.
Right.
The kid had to carry the team on his back, painted fingernails or not. He had to carry the team on his back because Lincoln Riley is not good. The kid is. I mean, arguably he's the best quarterback Lincoln Riley's ever had. He was 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk into a league, first of all, that I'm sure he crapped down his leg when he signed on at USC and then learned they'd go to the Big Ten because he went to the Pac-12 because he wanted easier. Because he knew Oklahoma was going to the SEC, and look what's happening to Oklahoma right now. And then he's like, oh, man, now I'm stuck with this. Dude is hoping for a way out.
They're not
he wants
built.
Out of this.
They are not. The roster is not constructed to play Big Ten football. I mean, the roster's not constructed to play competent football at all right now. But, like, we talked about this preseason. You're playing a bunch of teams who want to beat your face in. And a lot of people were talking preseason, looking at USC schedule, saying this is going to be a war of attrition for them because they're going to get their face kicked in every single week. What is going to be left of this team at the end of the season? And we're sitting here, we're not even in November yet. What is going to be left of this team? They're
Shambles.
3-4. Your coach, they're asking him after the game, like, why do you keep losing in the fourth quarter? And he's saying, I don't know.
Better figure it out.
Like, homie, what? How much money are you getting paid?
Ryan, you talk about the team being checked out. I think Lincoln Riley's checked out.
I think he might be.
I think he's ready to go be somewhere else. I think he damn now might hope someone pulls a Chip Kelly for him.
I was going to say, is he going to Chip Kelly himself?
And then, I mean, he's obviously knows elite OC, but buddy, like, your run, I think, might be done. Like, I don't know where you go if you're USC. Does USC call Curt Cignetti? Curt Cignetti does not seem like the Southern California type guy to me.
The thing is, like, we're now at a point with USC where we are so far removed from them being an elite football program. We got to kind of have a question about, like, what's their place in this sport? Because the worst thing that happened to them was Oregon joining the Big Ten, because Oregon's already a team that's been stealing their lunch recruiting the Southern Cal market. But you're also dealing with the fact that California in general does not produce elite linemen. So you got to go outside your own backyard to recruit that, and they haven't done a very good job. Haven't done a very good job at that. You're not the preeminent West Coast program in the Big Ten. Like, you're what I get the USC brand is still a thing that's prevalent in known nationwide, but, like, you're what, at best the 8th best football team in the Big Ten right now? At best? Like, if we're squinting and trying to contort ourselves. Nice. Yeah. Like, other than the nice weather, what are you offering at USC that you can't
get? The girls, the apartments.
That's it.
Money.
That's
the one thing that the Solid
Everyone's getting money everywhere
today.
Now.
Yeah. The Solid Verbal brought this up. Like, they brought in Jordan Addison a few years ago, right? Like, USC can muster some money to get some attractive names in the portal there. But are you sure Lincoln Riley can do anything with them? I think it just says a lot. And I understand they haven't had a defense, and I guess we can make the case that their defense is better this year.
The bar
not in the fourth quarter,
floor, though, Clinton. The bar was the floor.
Yeah. I just don't know where you go here with Lincoln Riley, man. Like, part of me really does think, I think he's checked out. How do you lose this many fourth quarter games with the talent you have? The receivers may not be elite. I feel like Zachariah Branch is just a better tool than he is an actual receiver. This is no knock on the kid.
Yeah, nah, he's not good down. He's not good.
He's super fast.
Physical coverage.
Yeah, he's small. He's great in the return game. You should have him doing both punt and kickoff returns. But this isn't like a Percy Harvin type thing. You know what I mean? Percy Harvin was also a good receiver.
Percy Harvin was big and physical too, not like huge.
So here's the other thing. Do you see Zachariah Branch was the number 1 receiver in the class, right? Do you see Zachariah Branch transfer out of USC after this year?
I mean, if Lincoln Riley goes, he probably will.
So I don't know. Like you and I called it at the beginning of the year. We told everybody with their USC fans who some do exist to pump your brakes. This is a new world. Like you don't know what you're getting into yet, man.
I'm going to be taking a victory lap over being down on USC and Michigan for the entirety of the offseason. I'm going to be miserable about it.
Listen, we're a first-time podcast, guys. We did a ton of research for our spring preview episodes. We did a lot of hard work going to the summer previews, and we're going to boast when we say we were right about USC and Michigan. We told you what would happen to them. We studied our asses off. We knew it before we even had the guys on the podcast who cover the teams. We knew what was going to happen, and here it is, staring you right in the face. They're average, if not below average teams. It's also even more of an embarrassment for Michigan to walk after a national championship, and this is what you get. Like, my God. Like, you guys are 2 of the biggest name programs in the Big Ten, and you're worse than Minnesota. No offense, Minnesota. I like your fans, and I like...
Poor Minnesota's catching strays on this podcast.
I know, but I'm just like, that was the first name that came to mind. You're worse than Indiana. And no offense to Indiana this year, but I'm just talking Indiana in general. Mm-hmm. When you line it up, Indiana's better at you in basketball. Mm-hmm. But would you think they're better than you at football? You're USC, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. Well, come on. Clinton, get on the ball with it, man.
Clinton, we are now approaching a time when incoming college freshmen were not alive the last time USC was good at football.
We're going to go another 5-10 years, and people are going to forget that USC was ever good at football. Mm-hmm. No one's going to know who Pete Carroll was. He'll be 85 years old at that point. Still probably trying to sleep with USC college girls, but
we're 5 years away from USC fans sounding like Notre Dame fans talking about the 80s.
So
I was not alive in the 80s, so I'm not talking about them.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what they do from here.
Look at that segue. Speaking of Notre Dame, Irish 31, Georgia Tech 13. Haynes King, in fact, did not play in this game, and
definitely hurt.
They almost killed Georgia Tech's backup too. There was like 4. So okay, I'm gonna go on a little rant about the broadcast on this game because it was I feel terrible for Georgia Tech fans watching this game because all the ESPN broadcast talked about this literally the entire game was, if Notre Dame wins this game, they will have a 60% chance to make the playoff per our playoff predictor calculator. They literally, Clinton pulled this graphic up 67 times during the game. It was obnoxious. It was so bad. Who's asking for this? Like, who did they survey? Like, what focus group did they hold where people were like, we really would love for you to talk about one team's playoff chances during this game 553 times. That is literally all they talked about.
They're trying to build you guys up.
It was
and
disgusting.
Hope that you fall.
I feel terrible for Georgia Tech fans having to watch that disgusting broadcast. It was awful. Yeah. I was sick of listening. It's like, shut the fuck up about the playoff. We're in the middle of October. Let it play out. God damn, not every conversation has to be centered around the playoff. It was stupid. It was unbecoming.
Yeah, well, guess who's also in charge of the playoff and gets all the money? ESPN.
It's just fucking God damn. Like, have some self-respect for the people watching your product. It was awful. Yeah. And I like Louis Riddick as a commentator. I think he's a really smart commentator. But, dude, like, put your foot down and be like, guys, okay, the first 17 times we talked about this, I think we got our point across.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Your guys' offense is moving better. Riley Leonard looks better. I don't think he didn't have a touchdown pass in this game, but looking effective with his legs. They ran for 168 and 3 TDs. Meanwhile, the defense held Georgia Tech to just 64 yards. Is it Pyron, or how do you say his last name? Pyron into 2 interceptions. Again, you're without Benjamin Morrison. That stings a lot. My one question in this You guys started slow again.
It's the Notre Dame way. The
Yeah, but
scripted drive comes out, and it's always stuff that's not on tape. Like they asked, I think they brought in Leonard Moore for post game availability, and he said, "Yeah, we prepared like we were going to see Haynes King all week." So they prepare like they come in. It's I need to start betting that Notre Dame's going to be losing after the first quarter because I think it's like 4 straight games they've gone down 7-0. And then they give up nothing. Like Tech got a garbage time touchdown at the end. Like okay, so this was what I wanted to circle this back into because like the whole fourth quarter was like Notre Dame looked really good on offense after their first 2 drives. So they went 3-and-out, or they might have gotten a first down, but punted pretty quickly to start the game. And then their second drive, Riley Leonard threw just a
pick.
brain dead interception. It looked like the Northern Illinois pick, but he overthrew Bo Collins this time instead of underthrowing him. But then after that, like they looked unstoppable. Like their next 3 drives, I thought that they were just going to score at will the rest of the game. But then they got up 21-7, and I don't know if they were just afraid to turn the ball over. They stopped throwing it. They stopped being creative with that, and they just kind of started running into a loaded box and didn't go great. So it gets to the fourth quarter, and Notre Dame runs a fake punt at one point. They ran a fake field goal at another point. And after the game, Freeman was like, well, those were looks that we got, and it was kind of one of those things that we prepared it, and if we got the look, we were going to run it. It didn't really matter the game situation. But again, ESPN is talking this entire time, oh my God, they're trying to get style points. Oh, you got to get the style points because you don't have a conference title game to impress the committee. Oh my God, playoff. It was literally the conversation. Like, oh my God, stop it. But like there was this weird back and forth then going on. So then Georgia Tech gets the ball back after Notre Dame missed a field goal, and then they threw a pick six, and then they got the ball back, and Brent Key's calling his timeouts with less than 2 minutes left in a 24-point game for some reason. Meanwhile, every single play, their quarterback is getting obliterated. He threw the touchdown pass, and he was laying face down on the grass because he got smoked. He's like hobbling back to the sideline with his left arm dangling at his side, and Brent Key sends his ass back out there for the 2-point conversion play, and then he got smoked again. It was a weird game, man. I don't know what the fuck the last 7.5 minutes of this game were, but yeah, so they tested Leonard Moore early in this game, and he played pretty well. He had 7 tackles, 2 passes defended. Georgia Tech, they had like 600 yards rushing combined their last 2 games, and you touched on it, they had 64 and average 2.2 yards per carry in this one. So another dominating defensive performance for Notre Dame. I said last week it sounds like they came out of this game injury free, and then 2 days later Benjamin Morrison is out for the season. So I'm going to shut my mouth and not say anything this time. But if they play defense like that, they're going to beat every team on the rest of their schedule, and they'll have a chance to beat someone in the first round of the playoff. But they're going to need a little bit more consistent.
Going to get 2 ranked wins out of that, and one of them is not going to be USC. It's going to be Army and Navy.
Army and Navy. Who had that on the bingo card? So. Yeah, that game scares the shit out of me because Navy, when Navy's good, always plays them really tough. But we'll kind of see what happens next week. Next up, Wisconsin 23, Northwestern 3. You kind of mentioned this one a little bit already. Braden Locke not as sharp in this game, but Tawee Walker. They don't pronounce it Tawee. It was like Tawee or I don't know. We're pronouncing it a weird way on the broadcast. I was caught off guard by it. 126 yards on 23 carries. He was very good in this game, and they really limited this Northwestern offense just as we were starting to sing their praises a little bit last week. Jack Lausch was not the best in this one. 9 of 24 for 82 yards. He also had 55 yards rushing, but this was a really good, suffocating defensive performance from the Badgers here, Clinton, and they are rounding into form. We talked, potentially a tricky spot with them hosting Penn State in prime time next week. And they get through this game with little fuss.
Northwestern piece first. Lausch's legs, they continue to help move the Northwestern offense when they need, right? His scrambling ability, picks up yards. Wasn't nearly enough this week, right? They only had 4 players catch passes. I know they only, had 9 completions, but only 4 players catch passes. I don't think A.J. Henning was on that at all. Did Henning get hurt? I believe he got hurt early in the game.
He did, because he had a rush, but he did not get targeted at all.
Yeah. Northwestern, if you guys watched the game, I had this one on plus the IU game. Northwestern missed some big opportunities early. They couldn't sustain drives, and this just added up on the rough afternoon for them on the final lakefront game of the 2024 season. The remaining home games will be at Wrigley Field. Yeah, Walker, man, he's on a 3-game tear. This was the 9th ranked rush defense in the country. You want to talk about top 10 Big Ten rushing defenses getting exposed this week? Nebraska and Northwestern. A little bit of a paper tiger, to coin your term there. Badgers D's hitting their stride. They've only allowed 1 touchdown in the past 3 games. Now, they're not playing elite offenses. I don't know exactly if we'd call Penn State's offense elite, but they're much better than what they faced. But you mentioned they draw them at home. They draw them at home.
Elite players.
They do in their backfield, but not out wide.
Might win the Heisman.
Yeah.
They'll put Tyler Warren out wide. They'll put him in the middle. They'll put him anywhere. They'll let him throw a ball. They'll let him snap a ball. They might let him kick the ball this week. Who knows?
Yeah, punt it too. Yeah, so the date looms this Saturday night, man. This is the Badgers season here, right? A few weeks ago, we were wondering if they could even get to 500. If they win this game, we're talking 8-4, 9-3 for them potentially. It's an impressive team. I think the biggest play of the day, though, was strength coach Brady Collins
jumping into the lake.
He made good on it. He made good on his promise to jump in Lake Michigan after the win. This was a great bounce back for Wisconsin. Northwestern beat the pants off of them last year in Madison, so they come into the mistake by the lake and get a huge win. Impressive for the Badgers. I'm stoked for Saturday night. I'm going to the Nebraska-Ohio State game, so I'm thrilled that I will be home in time. I'm glad it's a noon game because, man, I want to see this 7:30 matchup.
It will be good. Up next, UCLA found an offense, Clinton. They are officially off the list of teams who have not scored 20 points this year. Between college football and the NFL, that leaves only the Cleveland Browns. Have not scored 20 points yet this year.
Also, Hoo-day, baby. Hoo-day. We got the win. F the Browns. Get the hell out of here. They suck. Anyways, back to college football.
UCLA 35, Rutgers 32. Ethan Garbers, they built the whole plane out of him, man. He was incredible in this game. 32.
Mr. Do it all.
383 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns through the air. He also had 48 yards on 9 carries and a touchdown. He looked awesome, man. They got a couple of different guys involved receiving. 200-yard receivers in this one. Keegan Jones, 5 catches, 114 yards and a score. And Maliki Matavao, I probably pronounced that
wrong. I had that written down too, yes.
6 catches, 104 yards. Boy, man, this Rutgers defense has fallen off of a cliff.
Like Mount Everest cliff.
Yeah, I know they have some injuries, and I think the injuries have started to catch up to them after holding Nebraska to 14 points a couple weeks ago, 42 to Wisconsin last week, 35 to a previously anemic UCLA offense, 21 points more than their season average, Clinton. Kaliak-Manis was a little bit better throwing the ball in this one.
Best game in weeks, but wasn't good enough.
Monangai goes over 100 yards, has 3 scores on the ground, but good for UCLA, man. We were talking about them as maybe they're only getting a win this year, and this was they beat the time zone, they beat the body clock. They came out, man, and they
beat the pants off.
Yeah, right from the get-go, man. They jump up 7-0 early, and they took a 21-10 lead into the half here, and then withstood a late push from Rutgers.
Yeah, and that late push was Monangai getting his 3rd TD of the game. At this point, Monangai is just ready to enter the draft, right? Like this season, they're not even. I don't even know if Rutgers can make a bowl game at this point. You mentioned it. All the points. That's 77 points in 2 games. Bad tackling combined with injuries. This has just completely dismounted the Scarlet Knights from what once looked like a promising season. Man, they're in trouble. I don't have much more to add other than UCLA did break 2 streaks in this game. You mentioned the 20-point one, but they also snapped a 5-game losing streak. So props to the Bruins. Props to Deshaun Foster getting his first Big Ten win. I am fading Rutgers hard.
Yeah, man. That's,
fading them harder than a military haircut. They're done.
And I get that a lot of the conversation surrounding Rutgers this year was schedule-based and not necessarily we think that this is a 9-10 win talent team, but based on how they improved over the course of last year, based on the fact that they have one of the best running backs in college football, and based on what we think might be an improving passing game, well, yeah, 9 wins could be on the table. So it's not a daunting schedule the rest of the way, but man, the way that they have played now, I mean, even if you go back to the Washington game, I mean, they got gutted on defense in that game and basically got lucky that Washington kept shooting themselves in the foot. They almost
Yep.
blew the Virginia Tech game.
Should have.
So I mean, we're talking about a 4-3 record here. They have consistently gotten worse as the season has gone through. This is going to be a fascinating game against USC just because it's two teams that
Trending down.
they're trending down, and it's going to kind of be a race to the bottom in this one. But after that USC game, they have Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, and Michigan State. So not exactly a murderer's row, but definitely competent teams that I think have been playing a little bit better football than Rutgers has the last couple of weeks. So
I need Rutgers to beat USC to help my bold prediction come true, saying Rutgers would finish higher in the Big Ten than both USC and Washington.
well, buddy, I don't think they're
that's
going to
not
finish
aging
higher.
well either.
Don't think they're going to finish higher than Washington, but they might.
No,
finish
but they
higher
can
than
get USC. I can get half of that. Half glass full guy here.
Last game of the weekend. Sorry, guys, we went a little bit long today. Michigan State 32, Iowa 20. Holy smokes, Clinton! I did not see this one coming at all. We got Good Aidan Chiles in this one. When he plays like that, man, he is like this offense can be a problem if he is playing as effectively as he did in this game. He did have an interception in this one, but otherwise was good. 22 of 30 through the air for 256 yards and a touchdown. Also 51 yards on 11 carries on the ground. Michigan State ran for 5.3 yards a carry, 212 yards. They really took it to the Iowa defense in this one. And defensively, too, they bottled up Caleb Johnson. He broke a 75-yard touchdown run late in this game, but if you take that touchdown run out, his other 13
23
carries
yards.
only had 23 yards. So I did not have any of that on my bingo card heading into this one.
No, that was my lock of the week, and that was poo. Ryan also whiffing on his lock of the week.
Well, I was going to lock of the week this one, too, and then I got all in my feels about Purdue, and you know what?
Yeah.
Purdue had a chance to get that at the end there, and they just couldn't quite get it over the edge.
To start a kicker off in the first half here, the Hawkeyes were outgained 250 yards to 58 in the first half.
That's not good.
Only Iowa came into the game ranked 127th out of 133 in the passing game in the country. I'm sure they're worse now. So I had a little note here. I'm like, your Big Ten title and your playoff hopes are over. Do you just make the switch at quarterback and see what Sullivan does at this point to try to save face?
Man. Like,
I mean, you make your offense more dynamic, at least with being able to run the ball.
It's one of those things that I just wonder what he's got to look bad in practice, because it's just like, what's Cade bringing to the table for you? Like,
Passing.
I don't understand what he's bringing to the table. He's gone like 150 yards, and this one was his third highest output of the season. That's bad. His only two higher outputs from a yards perspective was against Troy and Illinois State. He's otherwise gone on 108 yards or less against every other Power 5 team that they've played. Power 4 team, sorry, whatever. That's not good, man. You're averaging like 100 yards a game against Power 4 competition. It can't be worse than that, Clinton. I struggle to see how it could be worse. I mean, I guess it could always be worse, but like, can it be that much worse?
Oh, man, I don't think it can. I really don't think it can. And this has been the problem that looms with Iowa for a long time. And look, this is another thing that just impresses me about Caleb Johnson. You have no pass game, and this kid is the second leading rusher in the freaking country. I don't know if he is after this weekend, but this kid is a monster. And this is another thing that kind of alludes to me why he's going to be a good NFL back, because he cannot possibly be on an offense worse than this one.
Well, he could. He could be on the Browns.
I mean, even Nick Chubb, once he gets healthy, man, he's going to start busting 100-yard games. Chubb had a nice, solid opener today. And then the Bengals rush defense played pretty well. But you're right. Could it be worse at the NFL level? Yes. But can you be as inept in the pass game? Like, just, I don't know, man. Like, I hope the kid lands somewhere good with a good O-line and a solid quarterback because he deserves it. He's a hell of a talent. And you're just seeing it kind of go to waste with this team unless maybe they make the switch. I don't know. The other thing I saw today was someone projecting that Kirk Ferentz was going to be fired in January. They think he's done. I don't know if they'd ever fire him or as a mutual parting of ways, but
I don't.
You need something different, man.
So, remember what was their win total, like 7.5 preseason, and we were like, I don't see a way that they win less than 8 games.
Well,
I mean, you're 4-3 now. I mean, you got Northwestern this weekend. You should win that one.
Maybe, but you don't play offense well.
But then you got Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland, and Nebraska. I mean, that's not that daunting. So maybe you still get.
No, they should get 9-3.
Yeah, well,
8-4.
You should at least get 8-4. You should at least win 4 of those last 5 games there. But it's just, man, it's
again. I heard they got some injuries on defense, so that's not helping.
No.
That's your calling card.
Yeah, Sebastian Castro did not play in this game. He's one of their best players.
It hurt a lot, but I don't know, man. You got to figure it out quick. And I'm just sitting here. Why not give it a shot with Sullivan? Just give it a chance. And you're right. We talked about before. There's reasons you're not playing right more often. It's probably because you're not good enough in practice to prove that you should be out there, other than in that red zone package. The throwing can't be that much better, or he'd be on the field already. Ferentz is a great coach. He's not that stupid to leave Cade McNamara out there when Brendan Sullivan is better.
Right.
So I don't know, man.
Dire situation.
I'm bummed for the Hawkeyes. I was excited. I think Tim Lester is still a great hire for this team. I think you got to have a quarterback that can throw the damn ball.
Yeah, that's
like it's a thorn in your side for years now. I have to check with Jeffrey the Greek on how long it's been since Iowa actually had a quarterback consistently throw the ball. But damn, man, like figure it out. You're wasting defenses. You should be a playoff team.
Yeah,
and you can't get there.
Can't get there, and it's an offensive thing.
Can't get it up, man. Come on.
Well, I think they have pills for that, but cool, man. That's all I have, unless you had anything else you wanted to kind of touch on tonight.
That's it, man. I'm looking forward to talking with Redcast Rob tomorrow night. So, guys, I'd sent him. I said, hey, we want to have you on if you're available. He said, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit, just kind of like we did last week with Nebraska up to this point. Kind of about the IU game, if he's willing to talk about it.
We're definitely not going to get rosy glasses, Rob. He's probably going to be feeling some type of way after that game.
Cover your children's ears if they listen, because I'm sure we're going to have some vulgar words used, and then preview the Ohio State game. I'm hoping, I really hope, since I'm going to be there, ask him tomorrow night. I hope they're sending someone from the Go Big Redcast to the OSU game. I'd love to meet up with them, even get a picture. Maybe do a short little Twitter blurb, like 2 minutes, just to meet up with him. I think that'd be pretty cool. So that's it for me, though. Cool, great week. Another great week.
Another great week. And we'll be back with you guys tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, if you want to join us on YouTube, but obviously it'll be in your podcast feed in the morning. For Clinton, I'm Ryan. Thanks if you're still listening. God bless you. We went long tonight. My bad. We'll see you tomorrow night.
See ya. Yeah.
Wow.